Good evening and welcome to this special international news update for January 18th, 2026. Tonight, the world finds itself at a critical crossroads. From high-stakes diplomacy in Washington to battle-scarred cities in Eastern Europe. From Beijing's careful calculations to New Delhi's strategic balancing act, global powers are making moves that could shape the future for years to come. We begin in the United States, where urgent diplomatic talks are underway. A senior Ukrainian delegation has arrived in Washington for high-level meetings with American officials. These discussions are being watched closely around the world, as they may signal a turning point in the long and devastating war between Russia and Ukraine. Behind closed doors, negotiators are discussing security guarantees, military assistance, and the enormous challenge of rebuilding Ukraine's economy. Ukrainian officials are pressing for stronger commitments, warning that the coming months could be decisive for their country's survival and stability. U.S. leaders have described the talks as serious and constructive. At the same time, there is a growing recognition that after years of fighting, the question is no longer just about weapons, it's about whether a political path forward is even possible. While diplomacy unfolds in Washington, the situation inside Ukraine remains grim. Russian strikes have continued to hit critical infrastructure, especially energy facilities, leaving parts of the country struggling with power shortages during this harsh winter. For civilians, this means freezing temperatures, disrupted services, and constant uncertainty. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has renewed his appeal to Western allies, urging faster military support and stronger air defenses. He warns that delays could lead to further suffering and weaken Ukraine's ability to defend itself. Now, let's turn to Russia. From Moscow's perspective, the conflict is framed as a battle for national security and regional influence. Russian officials insist their military actions are strategic and justified, rejecting accusations of indiscriminate attacks. At the same time, the Kremlin has shown limited openness to diplomacy, but only on its own terms. Any peace proposal, Russian leaders say, must recognize their territorial claims and security demands. Analysts believe Moscow is closely monitoring the U.S.-Ukraine talks, calculating its next move carefully. As the war in Eastern Europe drags on, another major global power is watching closely. China, Beijing has positioned itself as a voice for dialogue and stability, calling for de-escalation and negotiations. While China has avoided direct involvement in the conflict, its influence is impossible to ignore. China continues to strengthen its global presence through trade, investment, and diplomacy, particularly across Asia, Africa, and parts of Europe. At the same time, it is maintaining close ties with Russia, while carefully avoiding actions that could trigger a stronger backlash from Western nations. Chinese leaders have warned that prolonged conflicts and global instability could damage the world economy, disrupt supply chains, and slow growth, concerns shared by many countries feeling the ripple effects of war. Now, let us turn to a country playing one of the most complex roles in today's global politics. India. India has emerged as a key balancing power in this fractured world. Despite deepening strategic ties with the United States and Europe, New Delhi has continued its long-standing partnership with Russia. Recent engagements between Indian and Russian officials have focused on energy cooperation, defense, collaboration, and trade. Russia remains a major supplier of military equipment to India, while India continues to purchase Russian oil, often at discounted prices. A move driven by economic necessity and energy security. Indian leaders have made it clear that their foreign policy is guided by national interest and strategic autonomy. India has consistently called for dialogue and a peaceful resolution in Ukraine, while refusing to be drawn fully into any single geopolitical camp. Analysts say India's position reflects a broader reality of today's world, where many nations are no longer willing to choose sides, but instead seek to protect their own interests amid global rivalry. Back in the United States, these international developments are fueling an intense domestic debate. American lawmakers remain divided over how long and how deeply the U.S. should remain involved overseas. While support for Ukraine continues, questions are growing about the financial costs, strategic priorities, and the risk of a wider confrontation. The U.S. administration maintains that defending allies and upholding international stability are essential, but also acknowledges that diplomacy must eventually play a central role in ending the conflict. As we step back and look at the bigger picture, one thing becomes clear. The actions of the United States, Ukraine, Russia, China, and India are shaping a world marked by shifting alliances, competing interests, and profound uncertainty. Decisions made today in conference rooms, capitals, and conflict zones may define global politics for a generation. Whether diplomacy can prevail over division remains an open question. We will continue to follow these developments closely and bring you the latest updates as they unfold. Thank you for staying with us. Stay informed, stay aware, and stay connected.